have, throughout my career, always had a very straightforward attitude to the terms of Article 14.3. I have always insisted in all my, and I'm notorious for it, within the police and security services, that 48 hours mean 48 hours. And I put up a fight of my life when it comes to this. I must say that I'm excited that in some recent matter, I believe that the courts have given elucidation to this provision and laid out in unambiguous terms that 48 hours mean 48 hours, and that security agencies, people with powers of arrest, must ensure that the citizen is arraigned before a court of competent jurisdiction, and failing that, you ought to admit them to bail. And I'm particularly excited about that because it puts an end to this abuse by law enforcement agencies. I believe this decision is recent. You're not likely to have weekend courts, but there's a practical interpretation you can give to the ratio of that decision, which is that if you are required, for instance, as lawyers, if your case is adjourned to a particular day, and for any reason the court does not sit, or the day becomes a public holiday, or for reasons of COVID there's a lockdown, the case in practice stands adjourned to the next day that the court opens. And so you will go to court that next day for the judge to give directions. Therefore, in the circumstances of Article 14.3 and the recent decision of the court, what it will mean is that if there's 48 hours landed on a Sunday or a Saturday and you are operating in my district where there's no court within the district, you must ensure, or even if there's a court, the court is not sitting on the weekend, it then becomes incumbent on the arresting officer to make sure that on the next available date that the court opens, you have to arraign the person and let a judge determine the propriety of keeping the person in custody or admitting the person to bail.
Counsel, what about admitting the person to bail immediately the 48th hour reaches and inviting him over to court the following day?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely. That will be the attitude and ultimately the culture of responsible law enforcement officers who recognize that they are law enforcement officers primarily because the law says so, and not because they are born differently from the rest of us. And therefore, they ought to show fidelity to the law to all practical intents and purposes.